تفضل دكتور أيمن.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you joining us for today's information session about Qatar National Research Fund's Capacity Building Program. I am Ayman Basil. I serve as the Capacity Building Manager at QNRF, and I'm really delighted to be your host for today's session. As you probably know, QNRF was established 15 years ago to help Qatar emerge as a leading regional and international research capital by enabling research across all disciplines and at all levels. Moreover, we are also helping build a steady supply of talented researchers, scientists, academics, and experts through our capacity building programs to help Qatar achieve its goals, objectives, and solve its challenges. In today's session, we will be providing you an overview of 6 of our capacity building programs and announce the winner of the best representative image of an outcome BRIO competition for the year 2020. But before proceeding with our presentations, I would like to invite Dr. Aisha Al-Ubaidli, the Capacity Building Director at Qatar National Research Fund, to deliver her opening remarks. Dr. Aisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. On behalf of all my colleagues at Qatar National Research Fund and especially the capacity building team, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you joining us today for this information session. Today, our team will give insightful presentations about the capacity building programs offered by QNRF. Ladies and gentlemen, the strong focus that QNRF has placed on introducing initiatives and designing programs dedicated to building the local human capital can be traced right back to the time when QNRF was founded 15 years ago. The first program we designed and offered was the Undergraduate Research Experience Program, or UROP, which over the years has successfully identified talented local students at the undergraduate level and provided them with valuable resources and unmatched opportunities to further pursue their scientific and research interests. Several awardees of the Europe program went on to pursue their studies and careers at top-ranking research and educational institutions worldwide and have brought back a diverse and world-class set of skills and experience to actively play their role in helping Qatar develop in various sectors. The results we received from the Europe program compelled us to do more to exploit the potential that the students in our schools, colleges, and universities hold. Our future rests on the shoulders of these students, but the responsibility to prepare them to tackle the growing complexity of challenges in the region and worldwide rests on our shoulders. We took this responsibility very seriously and have designed a thorough, impactful, and engaging portfolio of capacity building and development programs for students from the K-12 to postdoctoral and early career levels. These programs focus on inculcating, identifying, developing, and translating outstanding scientific and research talent into sustainable solutions and real-life impact. One of the primary motivations behind focusing QNRF was to elevate Qatar's status as a leading regional and global capital for research and foster a thriving community of development and innovation. To make this successful, Qatar needs a steady supply of talented and skilled human capital, and through our capacity building programs, we are doing just that, and I must add, quite successfully. And while the success of our programs lays ultimately in the success of our students, I must acknowledge the important role that our stakeholders have played in helping us offering various opportunities and development programs to our students. In today's session, while we will be learning in detail about the diverse portfolio of capacity building and development programs offered by QNRF, we will also be announcing the new models for the Graduate Sponsor Research Award, GSRA, and the Postdoctoral Research Award, PDRA. Our team decided to make some changes to the old format to encourage further capacity building training in the priority areas and ensure that our programs complement the National Priorities Research Program and other QNRF grants and awards. In today's session, we will also be announcing the winner of Best Representative Image of an Outcome or BRIO competition for 2020. The BRIO competition is a unique initiative which celebrates the artistic and creative side of research of QNRF funded projects. This year, we received 21 applications, out of which 6 were shortlisted for the public voting round. Lastly, I thank you all once again for joining us today and hope that you will find today's session productive. Attending this session might be the first step for some of you of an exciting journey of pursuit of knowledge and scientific exploration. Congratulations on taking the first step and reach out to us to see how we can help you in this journey. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha, for your informative and engaging speech, which has perfectly set the stage for us to move and give our presentations about the various capacity building programs and initiatives at QNRF.
Thank you all.
But before doing so, please allow me to start by announcing the winner of the 2020 BRIO competition. BRIO Award is a competition that connects art with research outcomes. The competition gives QNRF funded researchers the opportunity to use images and visual illustrations to communicate their research outcomes to a wider audience. Images are judged and shortlisted based on originality, scientific and visual impact. For this year, we have received an exciting and vivid variety of submissions from several institutions across Qatar. I am confident that we will be using some of these images and illustrations in our website and in our future marketing and communication plans. Before announcing the winner, let's have a look at the top 6 shortlisted images. The first image is Palasite, and it was created by Dr. Naif Al-Yafai from Texas A&M University at Qatar. The second one, nanoribbons on nano-grain boundaries, submitted by Dr. Khalid Youssef from Qatar University. The third image is about 3D nanostructured photocatalysts, submitted by Professor Stylianos from Texas University at Qatar. A tree of hunger in the brain, submitted by Dr. Luis Sarayeva and Dr. Smija Kurian from Sidra Medicine. The fifth image about the visualization of gas flow in porous media systems, submitted by Professor Riyad Al-Rawash from Qatar University. And lastly, the sixth image about biodegradable magnesium implants, submitted by Dr. Vasant Chakravarti and Dr. Bilal Mansour from Texas University at Qatar. Although we have closed the voting a month, feel free to pick the pictures of your preference. The winning image was selected based on more than 1,500 votes that we have received from people in Qatar and around the globe. I know that you are all waiting for me to announce the winner, but I'm really enjoying the moment. For this year, the best representative image of an outcome, BRIO 2020 competition, is biodegradable magnesium implants by Dr. Vasant and Dr. Bilal and their team in Texas A&M University at Qatar. Congratulations to the winning team. It's really difficult not to be able to see the reactions. Again, many congratulations to the winning team, to Dr. Mansour, Dr. Vasant, and the Texas A&M University team. And I'm sure that we will be communicating with you soon to deliver the award. Again, once more, congratulations to the winner. We will now begin our first presentation about the Graduate Sponsorship Research Award. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat box, and we will ensure to answer them after each presentation. GSRA new cycle will be launched in the coming 2 weeks. That will be the 8th cycle, or the updated version, GSRA 2.0, as we like to call it at QNRF. Therefore, I would say that today's presentation is timely, allowing us to give you some heads up to better prepare for your application. The aim of this program is to support graduate students via competitive scholarship. This would allow us to expand Qatar's research culture and increase the research capacity by developing the necessary human capital to achieve Qatar's R&D mission and Qatar-related needs. Based on the meetings with the stakeholders and the feedback that we receive from institutions, academics, scientists, and students, we at QNRF, we run an extensive and comprehensive lessons learned exercise to serve the research community and ensure that Qatar's needs are met. Within this context, we believe that the new GSRA model would enable a better synergy amongst all our programs and ensure that sustainable capacity building is met in priority areas. For GSRA 8, we have kept both tracks, GSRA Local, that is open for Qatari nationals and homegrown talent enrolled at local universities. The main update from previous cycles is that the research project should be linked to an active NPRP grant, whether it's NPRP or any of the thematic grant challenges programs. From one hand, the lead PIs would be able to actively contribute to training local talents. And from the other hand, students will be lucky to join up and running teams and more importantly, work on priority areas with clear objectives and have a mentorship from day zero. For GSRA International track, it's dedicated for Qatari nationals. And unlike GSRA Local, where the student receives support from their mentors during the application, here the students are supposed to submit the full proposals by themselves. Of course, the project should be linked to a priority area that address Qatar's needs, and the host university should be included in the Amiri list. Going into details about the structure of the GSRA Local track, you need to know that we have basically 3 steps. The first step to be done by the student. So basically eligible and interested students should register on Q Grants by updating their profiles, adding their CVs, and other necessary information. By completing this stage, the student will have access to a comprehensive list of all active QNRF projects that has graduate positions in it. The student will look into the list, select the projects of interest that they will have also the lead PI details, and contact the lead PI showing his interest. So basically, I would really advise the students to go through the list deep in order to understand all the projects, select their project of interest, decide on their best fit prior to communicating with the appropriate lead PI. Hopefully, the lead PIs will be receiving lots of interest by students. It's really the role of the lead PI to interview the students, select the best fit for his project, and decide to complete the application with the identified students. Once the application is complete and submitted, it will go to the research office for vetting. To give a closer look about the eligibility criteria, students should be Qatari nationals or children of Qatari mothers. Again, resident of Qatar with at least 5 years of residency and a valid RP are eligible to apply. As you can see, the number of years were relaxed from previous cycles, giving the opportunity for students that finished their undergraduate studies in Qatar to benefit and apply for GSRA. The age limit is 30 years by the time of the submission deadline, and the student should not be enrolled in the program that he is applying to. In other words, the student should be having an acceptance for a master's degree or a PhD for the fall of 2021. As for the mentor's eligibility, he should be either a lead PI on an active grant that has a vacant graduate position, and by definition, the lead PI here will be affiliated to a local institution with an approved research office, or a PI on an active grant as long as the PI is affiliated to a local institution and he's residing in Qatar. Also worth noting that co-mentoring is allowed as long as one of the mentors is listed on the active grant. The co-mentor can be from an academic institution, an academic mentor. And this is really a good option for lead PIs that are not part of an academic institution, such as Hamad Medical Corporation, for an example, or even if he's affiliated to an academic institution that does not necessarily provide the graduate studies or has the exact graduate program. Also, the co-mentor can be an industrial mentor, and this is really helpful for projects that are more towards the applied side, projects that needs data, prototypes, or even implementation. For the submission requirements, the students needs to provide a detailed CV, a copy of the previous degrees and transcripts, a statement letter that include why he or she are interested in pursuing graduate studies, and describe the link between their interest and the selected topic. 2 reference letters, they need to be recent, dated less than 6 months. And of course, an acceptance letter from the university. As for the documents that needs to be submitted by the mentor, we will need the research plan of the suggested project. We will also need a commitment that he will continue mentoring the student until the end of the study program. So basically, mentorship is really not related to the active grant, but it's mainly related to the GSRA student timeline. Lastly, we need a consent letter to remove the graduate position budget from the active grants, as the full amount will be paid via GSRA grant. Mentioning the budget, this is a table summarizing the different stipends per category. National MSc students will be receiving a monthly stipend amounting to $4,000. As for national PhD students, the amount would be $5,000. For non-nationals, the stipend will be $3,000 for MSc and $4,000 for PhD student. In addition, PhD students will be receiving an allowance of $5,000 in terms to support them for attending and participating in international conferences. The tuition fee is capped at $20,000 per year, In case the fee is higher than the university fee is higher than this amount, we advise the student and encourage them to apply for a waiver or for a partial support by the university. Also important to note that the lead PI and as an incentive will be receiving 10 OPMS points and $5,000 to support him in attending conferences. For GSRA International Track, there was no major changes from previous cycles. The student will have to register on the system, upload the required documents, finalize and submit the application. Again, this track is only available for Qatari nationals or children of Qatari mothers. They need to be accepted into one of the top universities figuring in the Emiri list. The list has around 30 universities. I will be sharing the list in a while. And the student should be less than 30 years old by the submission deadline. Here is a copy of the Emiri list universities for your reference. Most of the universities are located in the US. We have 5 universities in the UK. We have Imperial College, King's College, UCL, University College London, and we have Cambridge and Oxford. We have a couple of universities in Canada, McGill and University of British Columbia, one university in Australia, Melbourne University, and Todai University or University of Tokyo in Japan. For the required documents, we need a comprehensive CV, a copy of the ID and the passport, as well as the previous certificates and transcripts. For the international track, the research statement letter is really one of the most important documents. You need to mention the research experience and interest, your objectives, the research topic, what are the anticipated outcomes. Really, you need to treat that as a mini proposal during the submission. Again, 2 recent reference letters, they need to be for 6 months. Moreover, and similar to the local track, we need the program acceptance letters and a tuition fee letter showing the exact tuition fee amount in addition to the exact start and end date of the program. As for the budget, unemployed students will be getting a monthly stipend, a one-time settlement allowance, the annual tuition fee, a travel ticket for them to go and come back to Doha, and for PhD student will also be receiving $5,000 in terms of support for attending conferences. Now that we know the process and application requirements for both tracks, it's important for the students to understand how competing application will be reviewed and evaluated. The first criterion is the candidate profile. Reviewers will review the academic transcripts, candidate standing in class, any relevant courses to the current submitted research plan, any amount of research they done in the past, their experience, their previous training, so on and so forth. The second criterion is related to the importance of the selected topic to Qatar. Reviewers would evaluate the degree of compliance of the topic vis-a-vis the research focused areas. For the research ecosystem, the reviewers would consider the institution's postgraduate program, the research infrastructure, the team profile, and gauge the student suitability to the nominated project. The last criterion is related to the student research proposal. Here, the reviewers would evaluate the clarity and the timeliness of the proposal, as well as how the proposal research would contribute to the state of the art suggested in the field. Finally, for interested students, here are some important dates that you need to keep in mind. The application would start in 2 weeks from now. It's important to ensure submitting your complete application by May 25, as missing the deadline would mean that your application will not be reviewed. Ineligible applications will be notified mid-June, giving them the chance to appeal, and we are hoping to announce the results by the end of July, also to give additional time for the students, accepted students, to better prepare themselves for the first semester or for the first term. Thank you all for your time, and feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. I will try to locate. So for the first questions, what's the difference between academic advisor and supervisor? Actually, there is no difference if you're already enrolled in the university and you have one mentor, but we're talking here about projects that not necessarily, where the lead PI is not necessarily affiliated to an academic institutions. Therefore, each university would require that one of the mentors would be from the university itself, and in this case, you will need what we call the academic supervisor. In this case, would be from the university, and another academic, another supervisor or co-supervisor who is usually the lead PI on the active QNRF grant or one of the PIs on the QNRF grant. For the second question, how do we view active opportunities at NPRP projects on Q grants? So basically, once the student, if he's interested in applying to GSRA, he will visit our website, register on Q grants, and then after uploading his CV and the necessary details, you will be getting an access to a very comprehensive list of all active projects, along with the contact details of the relevant lead PIs. Once you select your own project, you will be able to communicate with the lead PI. What's the lead PI? It's the lead principal investigator. For the age limit, unfortunately, it's capped at 30 years. So there is a question about what's required from the supervisor during the period of supervision in GSRA. He's basically mentoring the student. He's responsible for his project to support him, inform him about the readings at the beginning, probably sometimes the type of courses that he needs to take related to the topic of study, ensure that he's progressing well. If he needs to perform any experiments, and to be experiments to give them the necessary infrastructure, access to the lab, so on and so forth. So what if I was enrolled for fall 2020 and finished all courses, but I still did not start my thesis? Can I apply to GSRA? Unfortunately, no, only enrolled students cannot participate in GSRA. It's only meant for new students, as I've mentioned, to be enrolled in the fall of 2021. So isn't going to be a bit late to join already started project since GSRA takes about 1 year to get granted, by which time the main project might be late at this stage. Actually, what we're saying here for all current active QNRF grants, we're only showing to the students projects with a vacant graduate position. For the one to be announced, inshallah soon, hopefully soon, within the coming few days, I believe it will be timely with the current GSRA application. Can we have recording for the meeting? I will be checking with my colleagues if the session will be published on YouTube. We'll try also to share the slides with the relevant research offices. There is a question if the mentor must be enrolled in one of the grants such as NPRP and so on. It's correct. The mentor should be part actually of an active grant. He has a grant, and more than that, he has an opening vacancy for a graduate position in it. Whether NPRP, any of the thematic grant challenges, it's valid for all type of QNRF funded projects. What happens for grants that have no graduate student in the research plan? This means, unfortunately, they cannot support the graduate students, and accordingly, they cannot benefit from the GSRA award. However, for future preparation, I would encourage all scientists and researchers to take into account the importance of training graduate students by adding opportunities and possibilities in their grants. Are the slides going to be available? I've answered that. We're hoping to publish that online. Is the budget removed from the grant, the original budget, or the amount of the student will receive, which is much higher than cap in the grant? So basically, whatever is the amount on the QNRF active grant, this will need to be returned to QNRF, and the full amount, including the stipend, and in some cases, for example, the stipend would be $48,000 a year, in addition to the $20,000 for the tuition fee. In addition, if he's a PhD student, the $5,000 on annual basis and another $5,000 for the lead PI to attend the conferences will be paid by QNRF. The PhD program at Tamuk is through Texas A&M University. I believe you mean the College Station. So while one is based in Qatar with a local PI and does the research locally, does this qualify for the local track? Unfortunately, he doesn't qualify for the cycles, but this has been raised by many of our stakeholders, and I'm confident that the management at QNRF will be taking this into account when revisiting or doing our next lesson learned exercise. Is a provisional acceptance enough for the 25 May deadline? Yes, a provisional acceptance is enough. Is the program for undergrads or graduates? No, what I've just presented is the program for students interested in pursuing their graduate studies, master's or PhD. Hopefully, today also we will be presenting the undergraduate research experience program. My colleague Noha will be presenting this program, which is really dedicated and meant for undergraduate students. If I apply for a university in the US, will I be considered as a local or international student? No, if you're applying to a university in US, obviously you will be applying to the international track. How does the openings for graduate students is identified? So basically, originally, the graduate student position is already included in the awards and the various QNRF awards, whether it's NPRP or any of the other activities. If you already have one in your grant and it's vacant, then it will show for all interested students. Again, I have answered the age limit. Unfortunately, students needs to be less than 30 years old. Is it possible to modify the research focus area based on the supervisor advice? Yes, slightly, and it need to have an additional dimension to the project, especially that if during the project the mentor has created a slot for partial support for graduate students. In this case, if we're bringing a graduate student, a PhD student over 3 or 4 years, the scope of work would be higher, would be bigger. But of course, the main topic should be linked to the current or ongoing grant. Who will be submitting? Who will be the submitting institution for the local GSRA attached to NPRP? So basically, the institution where the lead PI will be affiliated to. So basically, the main applicant is usually linked to a local institution, and they are responsible for the NPRP grant or any of the active grants, and they would be responsible for submitting and vetting the GSRA application. Why is there an age limitation? Again, we're trying to create capacity building here. We know that the time frame for someone to earn his master degree student and his PhD takes time. We're talking about 6-7 years. So by the time someone would graduate, it will be very difficult to benefit from his experience for a long time duration, and we would rather prefer to keep the priority for young students. Again, we're talking about capacity building programs here. For student or for interested applicants that are 40 years old, they can always find a way to continue their graduate studies, whether NPRP funded projects and other type of funds at the level of the state of Qatar. If the offer letter include an English course, would that be acceptable? We are expecting our applicants to be competitive enough. Again, this is a program on competitive basis, and you need to be able to get an acceptance letter from a university. Will only the active NPRP with a graduate student role will be available in the database? Not only NPRP, whether NPRP cluster or standard, but all the thematic grant challenges program, PPM, all type of programs that are supported by QNRF, that they have vacant graduate positions in it, will be available to all students. How will the supervisors identify the potential GSRA candidates? So basically, as I've mentioned, once the GSRA interested students will be registering online, they will receive, or they will have access to a comprehensive list detailing all available opportunities, and it's up to the GSRA student to check the list, decide on the best project for them, and then contact the lead PI. So the lead PI role would be, if contacted by students, to check and see if the student is good enough for the project, can fit within the project, and in this case, he can select him to continue the application with him. So what happens if there is no graduate position in the NPRP grant? I already answered this one. Is it possible to modify the research focus area based on the supervisor advice? Again, I also mentioned this one. You can expand on it, you can add different directions, but it still needs to somehow be linked to the original QNRF active award. There is a question about RAMP. Again, my colleague Noha will be presenting RAMP after my presentation. Is it possible to apply for funding to a graduate research? Again, if the position is already mentioned in any of the active grant, then yes. If not, and you're a lead PI preparing for your next grant submission, would encourage you and I advise you to open a slot and include a graduate position in your grant. If we have a grant already with personnel funding, can some of that be shifted via change request to graduate student? Support to take advantage of the scheme. Probably you need to raise that with the post-award administration who are handling the NPRP award. If the offer letter include an English course, I already answered this one. Are there any program for current PhD students age more than 30 years? Again, I believe the university would accept all ages. There is no limit on that, and I'm confident that you will be able to find a spot in any of the host institutions or universities, whether in Qatar or internationally. So I'm seeing a lot of repetitive questions. I will take 2 more prior to moving to our next program. So what are the focus areas? Again, on a yearly basis, we at QNRF, we publish a list of topics and areas that we feel that are more relevant to Qatar at this stage. These can be found in details on our website. So I will stop the Q&A session here. We still have some of the questions not answered. I would really advise whomever still has a question that we didn't answer now, to send a request via our system. They can raise the ticket, and I ensure them to reply the soonest possible. Well, can you confirm if you can see the Postgraduate Research Award on the screen?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Our second program of this session is the Postdoctoral Research Award, or PDRA as an abbreviation. This is a natural career growth and training for PhD graduates, and I'm confident that most of our GSRA graduates would be interested in applying to this program. I believe here that my task should be easier, as the new PDRA model is close enough to what I have just presented via GSRA. PDRA is open for Qatari nationals and homegrown talents with a valid RP. The main update, again, from previous cycles, that the research should be linked to an NPRP or any other active grant at QNRF. So it's straightforward. We have in details mentioned the process. For the submission steps, similar also to GSRA local track, we have basically 3 steps. First step is to be done by the fellow himself. So eligible fellows should register on Q Grants and update their profile by adding the CV and other necessary information. By completing this stage, the fellow will have access to a comprehensive list that has all active grants with a fellowship position. The list will contain the titles, the abstract, the objectives of the project, as well as the contact details of the lead PI. I advise interested fellows to select their preferred topic and contact the responsible lead PI. It's really the role of the lead PI to review the requests, interview the postdocs, decide if it's a good fit for his project, and decide to submit the application with him. Once the application is submitted and vetted, it will reach the research office, who will have the role to vet the application. In terms of the eligibility criteria, the PDF should be Qatari national or children of Qatari mothers. Also, residents for 5 years or more with a valid RP are eligible to apply. Also for PDRA, we can notice that we have relaxed the residency years from previous cycles, giving the opportunity for students graduating from local universities to apply to and benefit from PDRA. The applicant should be a PhD holder with less than 3 years of experience or expecting to receive his degree by August 2021. Also, and in order to support translational and clinical research, MDs with 2 papers, 2 peer-reviewed articles are eligible to apply. Worth noting that every postdoctoral fellow can submit only 1 application per cycle, and if awarded, it will be once in a lifetime. As for the mentor's eligibility criteria, he should be either a lead PI on an active grant that has a vacant postdoctoral fellow position, or a PI on an active grant, as long as the PI, as we have mentioned, affiliated to a local institution and residing in Qatar. Important to note that lead PIs can submit multiple applications of course, with different fellows, depending on the number of positions that he has on his active grants. As you know, part of the postdoctoral training, which is a highly technical path, is to train the fellows outside their comfort zone, new directions, new techniques, expand their network, and therefore fellows applying with the same PhD mentors are not eligible to apply for PDRA. So every PhD holder needs to submit a PDRA application with a new mentor. Lastly, the lead PI should be submitting a consent letter, agreeing again to remove the allocated budget of the postdoctoral fellow from the active grant, as the full amount will be paid by PDRA. This is a total yearly budget that we can see in this table. Worth noting that PDRA allows support over 2 years. National applicants will be receiving a sort of a stipend or personal cost of $110,000 in terms of stipends. As for non-nationals, they will be receiving $90,000. All fellows will receive an additional $5,000 in support to participate and present at international conference. And as an incentive to the lead PI for supporting postdoctoral fellows, they will be receiving 10 OPMS points and $5,000 for conference support. For the submission requirements, the fellow needs to provide a comprehensive CV, a copy of his previous degree and transcripts, the statement letter, 2 reference letters that need to be recent. As for the documents that needs to be submitted by the lead PI, he will need a detailed research plan of the suggested project. This would include the description of the proposed research, the benefit to Qatar, risk and risk mitigation plan, plans for disseminating the research outcome, so on and so forth. Also, we will need a consent letter whereby the lead PI would commit to remove the PDF budget. As I have mentioned, the full budget will be paid via PDRA grant. And in case the lead PI is not the primary research mentor of the fellow, we will need a consent letter from his side approving the nominated PRM. In terms of the evaluation criteria, the reviewers will be assessing the candidate profile, the topic importance to Qatar, the whole ecosystem, as well as the submitted research proposal. For my last slide about PDRA, here are some important dates to pencil. The submission will start in 10 days. The deadline to submit the full proposal would be April 26. The RO will have 1 week to vet the proposals, and we are hoping to announce the results mid-September. That's it for PDRA. I will be opening now the floor for questions prior to moving to our third presentation about the Early Career Research Award. Let me locate now where we're starting. I see that Noha also helped me in answering some of the questions. Thank you, Noha. When will they announce the result of the recent NPRP? I believe in the coming few days. I would appreciate really keeping the questions related to the topics that we're discussing today. The lead PI has to be a professor in the same major. Well, depending on the topic you're applying to, but of course, if the lead PI is the main player for an active grant, the grant was really evaluated, peer-reviewed first, then evaluated by a panel of experts, and he received the award. I'm sure his skills and capabilities are more than enough to take the lead on the project. What's the implication of the removal of the personnel funds to IDC for the submitting institution? I don't think that there will be any implication, as we're not adding the IDC from the GSRA and PDRA, so the IDC will remain with the initial grant. For the personnel budget for non-national, is the 90K for salary, or will that amount also cover costs associated with benefits? Again, depending here on the host institution, basically the 90,000 is to cover the stipend and salaries of the students, but sometimes in some institution, part of that would be to cover housing or car allowance, and sometimes the medical insurance. Is the coverage of PDRA the same duration as that within the grant, or fixed duration? Yes, thank you for this question. Once you agree to mentor, whether a PDRA or a GSRA student, the duration would be for the whole period of that project. So, for instance, for PDRA, it will be over 2 years, and for GSRA, it will be 2 years of a master degree student and up to 4 years if he's a PhD student, regardless of the duration of the grant. So in this case, the mentorship would follow GSRA and PDRA grant. What about if the funded grant is NIH supported? Again, for postdoctoral fellows, the fellow needs to be trained locally in Qatar, affiliated to a local research institute, and the mentor needs to be locally. I can sometimes understand that part of postdoctoral training over 2 years, the fellow might be collaborating with an international entity. He might be visiting for 1 week, probably to perform some experiments, but that's it. I mean, most of the time or work needs to be done in Qatar. Is there a limit on PhD degree award year? Yes, there is. I have mentioned PhD graduates with less than 3 years of experience. What's the implication of the removal of personal funds to IDC? I believe that I have answered this question. Is there any age restriction? So for PDRA, no, there is no age restriction. The restriction is related to the number of experience after completing the PhD. If one is a PI in active NPRP grants and meets the PDRA criteria, can he/she apply for PDRA? Again, they can apply for PDRA, but they cannot maintain both roles. I mean, this would be considered as double dipping. And usually when a person applies to PDRA, he's committing his time to the new project and cannot perform two projects at the same time. So he needs to choose which one to take. For thematic grants, they may be announced later in the year. Will a second round for post-PDRA and GSRA occur? Again, thank you. I know that we at QNRF, we're doing our best really to synchronize all our programs and activities to ensure that synergy that you're mentioning here. I'm confident also that we will be taking your note into account when discussing internally the exact timeline of the new GSRA or PDRA cycles. The lead PI or PI in PDRA can be a PI in the newly accepted NPRP project. Yes, they can. Again, there is no limitation on the number of roles within this context. I know that some of the lead PIs, they might be concerned. I have already 2 roles in active NPRP. If I apply also to mentor 1 graduate student and 1 postdoctoral fellow, will it be considered as 4 roles? No, it will remain 2 roles for the major grants. So mentoring a postdoctoral fellow or a graduate student would not increase that number. Thank you, Noha. I see you've been very active in answering some of these questions. Can we have a video of the meeting? I missed the main parts. Again, as I've mentioned, we're hoping to upload the full session upon completing the session. Hopefully it will be available on YouTube. All the presentations will be shared with the relevant research offices. Thank you all for your time. I believe I will be stopping the Q&A session for PDRA and move to our third program. Again, Wael, can you confirm that we can see the Early Career Research Award?
Yes, go ahead.
So as I've mentioned, the third program that we will present is the Early Career Research Award. So basically, through GSRA, we attract students to become researchers. Via PDRA, which is a highly technical training outside their comfort zone. And now we believe that the applicants are mature enough to take the lead on their own project with minimal support from a research mentor. Therefore, the aim of this program is to support these young researchers to build their capabilities, labs, and team, something that would allow them to compete with accomplished scientists for major grants in the near future. Also, ICRA serve as platform to establish research programs that are in line with our highest priority areas. And ICRA is designed also in a way to induce the market by supporting job creation for talented researchers. Accordingly, ICRA provides a generous amount of 350K over 2 years. The amount can be used to cover for personnel and for research expenses. Again, I'm saying generous because the 350K is really comparable to what we give in our major grants, taking into account, for example, that NPRP is over 4 years, whereas ICRA is over 2 years. Again, the budget is designed to support the personnel salary for an amount up to 100K per year, and a minimum of 150K can be used to support the research expenses, the travel, and some of the miscellaneous expenses. As I have mentioned, the program is designed to support early scientists to find suitable positions, and this can be only done in partnership and coordination with the host institute. Therefore, we require the host institution to appoint the applicant on a permanent position and to co-fund his salary if needed. In case the host institution is taking in charge the full salary of the early career researcher, then they can use the whole amount, the whole 350K for research expenses, or to support other graduate students, research assistant on the grant. Important to note that a minimum of 60% of the applicant time needs to be spent on the grant. Again, we're talking about a research grant, and really by only putting 60%, we're giving enough flexibility for the applicant himself to teach if he's in the academia, or to do even and enhance his administrative skills if he's linked to any other institution. When preparing the application, the first step would be for the early career scientist to identify and discuss his proposal with the research mentor. The second step would be to register and start the online application. Then the PRM would submit the CV and the supervisory plan. After that, it's for the ECR to finalize and submit the full proposal. Then the full proposal would reach the research office for vetting before it comes to QNRF for screening, evaluation, and award announcement. For the eligibility criteria, the applicant should be a Qatari national or child of a Qatari mother. Non-nationals that were born in Qatar with at least 10 years of residency will be eligible to apply. Also, non-nationals with at least 12 years of residency in Qatar will be eligible to apply. Also worth noting that QRLP graduates are eligible to apply for ICRA. The applicant must be a terminal degree holder with 2 to 7 years of experience and be already appointed in a permanent position or promise to be appointed in one by the submitting institution. So he needs to be appointed prior to starting his grant. Also, and as I've mentioned during PDRA, we also support here MDs with 2 peer-reviewed papers to apply for ICRA. The PRM should be an accomplished researcher with a vast experience in the selected field. Part of ICRA commentating is acceptable as long as the commenter is affiliated to a local institution and he is residing in Qatar. Each mentor can apply for 1 award per cycle and be responsible for 2 active awards. Some important note that applicants should be aware of. Applicants can submit 1 ICRA application per cycles, and if awarded, it will be 1 award per lifetime. Awarded lead BI on NPRP or equivalent programs are no longer considered as early career, and accordingly, they are not eligible to apply for PDRA. ICRA recipients are encouraged to apply for NPRP during their 2nd year of ICRA award. And of course, in this case, they cannot start the award prior to finishing their ICRA grant. A large portion of the evaluation is based on the applicant himself, and accordingly, the ICRA grant cannot be transferred to any other candidate. For the proposal details, the ECR will have to prepare a I would say, designed research plan that should not exceed 20 pages. The document should include an introduction where the applicant would outline the background of the proposed research and the major aspect of the proposed activities. The objective section is meant to describe the project's goals and significance. And the methodology section, this ECR should describe techniques that he is intending to use and how the data will be analyzed. For the anticipated benefit section, the ECR should clearly state how this project would help him in advancing his career. The timeline or the milestones section is also an important section, as it describes the duration and resources needed for each task to be completed. Lastly, the mentoring and supervisory plan should describe the role of the PRM in overseeing and supporting the ECR progress. In addition to the research project, the ECR would have to submit personal statement, 2 signed reference letters, the usual eligibility documents such as transcripts, certificates, a detailed budget, it's important, a risk mitigation plan. Here also the ECR should identify potential risks related to his project and the way to mitigate them. For research involving human subjects or laboratory animals, the applicant is required to comply with the rule and regulations of Qatar. Also, the applicants need to answer some questions related to IP, and IP is an important factor of the evaluation process. Each ICRA application will follow a 2-tier evaluation process. The application will be first peer-reviewed by independent scholars and will be ranked based on intellectual merit. This would include the objectives, were they clear, realistic, achievable. Then we have the impact. How would the suggested topic address priority issues and how would benefit Qatar? For the methodology and project structure, reviewers would check how well the proposed project is conceived and organized. This would include the timeline and the specific work packages. For the qualifications of the research team, reviewers would evaluate all previous achievements as well as the capabilities to coordinate the project. Lastly, reviewers would check how this award would advance the career of the early career researcher himself. Once the peer reviewing step is finalized, all proposals with majority funding will be evaluated and interranked by a panel of experts, taking into account the candidate's qualification, the accuracy and adequacy of the budget, the research plan, how it's relevant to Qatar, what's the IP potential, and of course, the mentor supervisory plan. Here are the important dates to keep in mind for this third cycle of ICRA. The cycle is already live since November 16. You still have 1 month to finalize and submit your proposal. The deadline for the vetting would be March 1st. In March also will be notifying ineligible proposals, allowing them to appeal with a 1 week time, and we're hoping to announce the results by July. That's it for my presentation for ICRA, and I'm ready now to take your questions. So again, probably these either some of the questions that I have missed, or they are asking questions about PDRA. To confirm, only lead PI on active NPRP with budget line for a postdoc can apply. Yes, for any active grant, the lead PI needs to have either an opening for a graduate student or an opening for a postdoctoral fellow in order to benefit from GSRA or PDRA. Can the mentor be international and co-mentor local or vice versa? No, currently, if we're talking about GSRA, both mentors should be from local institutions. However, you can always coordinate and collaborate with international teams, and it's something really normal. Most of our NPRP grants that were awarded are having already collaborations with international universities or entities. Is there a requirement on the primary research mentor for ICRA to be different from the PDRA research mentor? You're giving us some heads up now. Currently, no, there is no such rule. So the PDRA mentor can be the ICRA mentor. Can we have a conditional offer letter given to the applicant if awarded? If we're talking about ICRA, yes, it's called promise of employment, and here you can share the promise of employment letter with the applicant himself during the application. For MD student, do they need to be first authors on the 2 peer-reviewed journal papers? No, in terms of eligibility criteria, no. If they have 2 published papers, they can always apply. Now, whether first, second, third, it would go back to the peer reviewers and how they would see the effort of the MD or any type or any other researchers actually when submitting their credentials. But in terms of eligibility criteria, you will be able to apply for ICRA. And it's really good to see more and more medical doctors coming into the research. So we answered this. Again, questions. I know that we're supposed only to answer ICRA, but because GSRA and PDRA new models were new, allow me to elaborate more. Should PDRA candidates submit a research plan or just select and agree with the lead PI on NPRP topic? Actually, PDRA position will be linked to the NPRP project. That's something that you need to understand. So you cannot apply a PDRA application as a standalone application. It will be automatically affiliated to an active grant, whether NPRP or any of the other active grants. Now, you can always expand the research, add to it, especially if, for example, the position on the active grant was supposed to be for 6 months or for a year, and now you're applying for a 2 years grant. I hope this clarify a bit. I am a resident for 8 years. Can I apply? Unfortunately, for ICRA, you cannot apply. It needs to be 10 years of residency if you were born in Qatar, and 12 years if you were not born in Qatar. If we're talking about PDRA and GSRA, then yes, 8 years of residency are more than enough to apply, as we're asking for 5 years and more. Is there a requirement on the primary research mentor for ICRA being different from the PDRA research mentor? We have answered these questions. I'm resident in Qatar. Again. If I'm short by 3 months to meet the minimum 2 years experience after PhD, could exceptions be made? No, we're known at QNRF that we don't allow exceptions. However, in order to better assess your application, feel free to share with us your detailed CV by submitting a ticket to QNRF, and we will be glad to answer you back with the right answer. Should the ICRA research mentor have an active NPRP project on the area of interest of ICRA? No, it's not part of the eligibility criteria. However, it can help whether it's linked to this project or not. Having active grants, it would help in the evaluation, meaning that he's a very active mentor, he is well established, he is not applying here really to support the research fellow himself, and he's not here really because he's applying to a grant. So basically, yes, when we're saying accomplished lead PI, meaning that usually these are very senior PIs that they are having up and running labs and up and running grants. What are the focused research areas? These are published on our website. You can easily check them. Once we publish our RFPs, also it will be figuring on the RFPs. Should the ICRA research mentor have an active NPRP project? We just answered that. No. He can apply with the fellow, and it's not does not need to be linked to an NPRP project. Where do we find the new RFP for GSRA? The new RFP for GSRA will be publicized on our website and added to our website in 2 weeks from now. That's it from my end. I hope I I was able to clarify some of your queries. It's time to me to rest a little bit, and I'm glad to welcome my colleague Noha Lokka, a program manager at QNRF, to continue the remaining 3 programs. Thank you, Noha.
Thank you, Ayman. Thank you, Ayman, for your efforts. It was really very informative. As Ayman mentioned, today I will be presenting to you 3 programs: the undergraduate research program, which is known as Europe, REMB, the Researcher Exchange and Mobility Grant, and the CWSP, the Conferences and Workshop Sponsorship Program. So starting with Europe, just tell me Wael once the presentation is appearing to everyone. Yes. So, okay. So Europe, actually, it's one of the main program offered by QNRF. It was launched in 2006, and up to now we have been awarded 1,100 awards, including about 4,500 students. So this grant actually aims to attract the undergraduate students to the research culture, and offering them hands-on experience under the mentorship of their faculty in the university. And also it gives them a networking opportunity with the academia, private sector, and other collaborators. So it's meant actually to train the undergraduate students. Each undergraduate student shall receive an amount of $5,000 to train him in a specific research topic. So the project could be conducted individually or in a group. So the minimum it's 1 student and up to 6 students. So we have a specific ratios, mentor to student ratio. So the maximum number of students is 3 students. Should be mentored by one faculty staff. If the number of students has been increased, so the number of mentors should be increased accordingly. However, there is no limitation at all in the number of mentors. There could be for 1 student 2 mentors, 3 mentors. However, the minimum number of mentors is 1 to 3 students. Sorry. So the 5,000 will be distributed as the following: 1,000 will go to the mentor, 1,500 will go to the student, 200 per student will go to the submitting institution, 2,300 will go to cover the expenditure, the research expenditure, for a duration of 12 months. So with more focus on the expenditure or more details, this should cover the material, consumables, supplies. Also, it can cover travel costs for conference participation, and it's only for students who will be presenting the Europe outcomes. Also, it can cover other miscellaneous costs like publication, communication, poster translation. So who can apply to this award? Who's eligible to apply? The mentors. Mentors who's affiliated to an academic institution inside Qatar, they can apply. However, the mentors, if they are in a group, one of them at least should be holding a research-oriented doctorate degree or an approved terminal degree. So one at least of the team of the mentors should be holding a PhD degree or a terminal degree. NPRP awardees, the elite PIs, the PIs, the postdoc, PDRA, and even GSRA candidates can be applying as a mentors. So students from the program name. It's supporting undergraduate students enrolled in a university inside Qatar only. And the student should be a resident inside Qatar throughout the project duration. But and if it's sometimes it happens that the students being graduated before the project end date, so they will be committed toward completing the project with their mentors. So what is the limitation? Is there any limitation? 6 students. It's the maximum number of students who can participate in one Europe project. And each student can only participate in one Europe proposal per cycle. While for the PRM, the primary research mentor or the research mentor, they have a maximum of 3 ongoing projects. So these 3 Europe projects, it's counted for all Europe cycles. So here in Europe, we are encouraging also the collaboration. A project can collaborate with multiple institutions, and they will get bonus points for this collaboration. Resubmission, yes, it's allowed. We are allowing to receive this application with more strength after modification and strengthening the application, but it's allowed once from the previous 2 cycles. So if we are now in the cycle 28, we are allowing to receive resubmission from cycle 27 and 26. So what do you need for the submission? We will need a research plan, a support letter for any collaborating mentors, a detailed budget, and ethical approval if required. The proposal preparation, for sure, both the students and the mentor, they will be affiliated to an academic institution that has an approved research office. And then both the mentors and the student, they should be registered at QNRF online system. However, the mentor, he will be the one who's submitting the proposal. He will be the one who's submitting the research plan. It could be prepared with the students, but the mentor, he will be the one who's representing the team. Then the proposal will go to the submitting institution for vetting and then eventually received to QNRF for evaluation. So that's the Europe application will be reviewed by the peer reviewer against the certain criteria. They will be evaluating the anticipated benefit of the undergraduate students. Also, the benefit in creating a research culture inside Qatar, the intellectual merit of this project, and the mentoring and supervisory plan. As I just mentioned, there will be 2 bonus points added for projects whose including industrial participation, and 1 bonus points for more than 1 institution participation. Europe, the 28th cycle of Europe has already been launched in 2nd of November. The deadline is approaching soon, so I'm encouraging you all to finalize your application and submit it, and so to submit them actually before the deadline, because sometimes due to huge demand on the submission, there you can face some glitch on the last moment. So please try to submit as soon as possible. The ineligible proposal will be notified in the first week of March, and the funding announcement will be on May, inshallah. So here you can find some for more information about Europe. You can read the RFB, which is located in the download center in the Europe web page. Also, you can approach us through QNRF support channel. So here this is the end of your presentation. We may receive your question for Europe. Okay, let's check. Okay, is it possible to forward this presentation to us? Sure, as Dr. Ayman has mentioned, yes, it will be available for you, and also we will send the PowerPoint slides to the registered attendees. Can we have a 3 PRM? Actually, PRM is the primary research mentor. There will be one research mentor at each proposal, but the number of mentors could be many. Yani, you could have one primary research mentor who will be representing the team at QNRF channel, at the QNRF system, while the other mentors, yes, you can have up to 6-10 mentors. You can have as much, because the mentoring, it's very as the number of mentors increase, the students will be benefit will be more. 6. Is the support letter a mandate? Actually, the support letter, it's only mandatory in case you are inviting some mentor from outside the submitting institution. So, for example, if you have mentors from Qatar University, and you would like to have a collaboration with other mentors from another local university, Texas, CMU, these mentors, they are required to submit a support letter from their university approving their participation in Europe. And actually, there is a template for that support letter located in the download center. So is there an agreement of commitment to be signed by the students to guarantee their commitment through the project period? Actually, it's not a requirement from QNRF side, but it's a good suggestion for the submitting institution to comment their students. And actually here at Qatar National Research Fund, we are not releasing the students' stipend unless getting feedback from their mentor about their participation. So the QNRF shall receive 2 progress reports during the project lifetime. The first one will be after 6 months. And here, after 6 months, and after receiving the mentor confirmation on the student commitment, then the student shall receive their stipend. May you please send this presentation to each of the research offices? Sure, it will be sent to them. Okay, so it's again about the presentation. Yeah, it will be shared certainly with everyone. So now moving to the second presentation about the research exchange and mobility grant. So RIMB is one of the most recent programs at CB portfolio. It was just launched last year, and we will be launching, inshallah, the 3rd cycle this month. Actually, it offers internship opportunity for graduate student and junior researcher outside Qatar. And so from its name, it aims to train the next generation of researchers on the research priority area needed for Qatar, and exposing these candidates to international research experience, and also enhancing their R&D employability skills. So these candidates will be exposed to the culture and the mindset of international institution. So this award will support the candidate with will support the candidate with a $3,000 monthly to go outside Qatar to go outside Qatar, and also it will support their travel cost. It's not the whole travel cost, it's the economy ticket, and the internship duration would be up to 4 months. All applicants should be affiliated to a local submitting institution, and they should be having an approved research office. So who can apply? Who's eligible to apply for them? Only students who's enrolled in a graduate academic program inside Qatar, or who are employed in a local research institution with an approved research office, as we mentioned earlier. Qataris and residents of Qatar for 10 years or longer with a valid RP, they are eligible to apply. The training objectives must be aligned with the research focus area. Part-time employee will not be eligible to apply. Also, applicants who's receiving salaries from MPRP, they are not eligible to apply. So speaking about the employees who's holding a terminal degree with more than 2 years of experience, also they are not considered as junior researcher anymore, so they are not they cannot apply for them. For the institution, yes, we can receive application from academic and public institution with an approved research office, and the research area also of the training should be aligned with the institution also research area. The application is too simple. It's only submitted by the applicant, vetted by the institution, and it will reach QNRF. The applicant needs to send an updated CV, employment letter for the employee, and enrollment letter for graduate students. Training timeline with objective and justifications, letter from host institution, 2 signed reference letters, and also to complete a REMP application template, which is available online. Also, we need RO confirmation letter that this applicant is not enrolled in any NPRP or internal grant at QNRF. So for the evaluation criteria, the applicant profile will be evaluated, his research background, academic achievements, the quality of his training, and the caliber of the host institution, the potential of this training to strengthen the candidate research experience, and the alignment of this topic with Qatar National Research Priority. REMP will be launched, the 3rd cycle of REMP will be launched soon, after 2 days. And the deadline to receive all application will be in March, and the award announcement will be in May. However, the training starting date should be at least 4 months. 4 months after the submission deadline. So for any internship, the duration should be at least 4 months after the submission deadline. So that was a brief about REM. Let's check if we have any question. Kindly let me know when. Okay, let me know about REM. Kindly let me know about REM launching date. As I mentioned just now, it will be on the 20th of January, inshallah. What difference between end date and due date? If I understand it very well, it's the submission deadline or the application due date. It's the same. It's the time where all the applications should be submitted and received by the applicant or vetted by the research institution. Should the host institution be a university or can be a research center? Yes, it could be a university or any research center. Unlike Europe, there is a condition in Europe that it could the submitting institution should be an academic institution, while for REMP it's open for all, for the research centers and academic institution also. Okay, for me the award is vetted pending, but I would like to know when it will be resumed. Actually, QNRF, inshallah, shall be communicating with all previous awardees and updating them about their final status. So, I am an international student here in Qatar and enrolled in a graduate program. So if you should be meeting the residency requirement, if yes, you can apply. Okay, so that was the last question for them. Let's move to the third presentation about the CWSP. So for the conference and workshop sponsorship program, it's one of QNRF initiatives that promote research culture inside Qatar. So up to now, QNRF has supported supported the organization of more than 120 conferences and workshops through the previous 19 cycles. So the programs encourages all sectors in Qatar to organize and host scientific and research conferences, which could foster the collaboration between researchers in Qatar and the global research community. This grant, it's available for only our local submitting institution. And it can cover up to $50,000 for each application. CWSB, it's offered twice a year. So twice a year, yes, sorry. For more details on CWSP budget, CWSP grant can cover travel expenses for international speakers, the venue rental cost, the publicity material, hotel accommodation for international speakers, and also in case there is a co-sponsorship, the applicant needs to include the budget breakdown. As we have mentioned, it's available for all our local institutions. However, the applicant must be a member of the event organizing committee and affiliated to an approved research institution. The applicant also must be a research-oriented doctorate holder or having an approved terminal degree with at least 5 peer-reviewed publications. The event must be aligned with one of the Qatar National Research Strategy objectives. The proposed date of the event must be at least 4 months after the submission deadline. The application should be submitted by the applicant. He needs to submit his CV, the anticipated speaker's CV as well, the expected outcomes, the event plan, agenda, website, and all information related to the event. Also, he needs to submit the application, the CWSB questionnaire also. And accordingly, QNRF will be able to evaluate the quality of research content and the relevant to Qatar of this event. Can evaluate the planning and organization proposed by the applicant, the benefits of this event to the research community inside Qatar. It would evaluate the stakeholder engagement and the strategic benefits for QNRF. CWSB current cycle, it is had open for application. The deadline to receive all application is 14 March. And the vetting it's on the 21 of March. And the award will be announced by May 2021. So for any questions? So the question, are there any areas QNRF encourages for applicants to apply in RAMP? Actually, yes, at RAMP RFB, the research focus area will be launched in the RFB itself, and you can review them and align your topic with your internship with one of them. Can CWSB conferences be online given COVID uncertainties at this point? Yes. Due to COVID measurements, we will be accepting the virtual conferences. So, is there a maximum number of participation considering COVID restriction? Actually, there is. It is per the government rules. If the government will be allowing or announcing the allowed number of participants, and we will be aligned with this. Okay, so that's all for CWSB. There are no more questions. Thank you for your attending. Thank you for your participation. We will be glad to answer more and more through QNRF support channel. So please. I'm encouraging you all. We will put the link there after the end of the session, and you can approach us. Should we adjust the budget in this case? If you're referring to CWSB budget, actually QNRF until now has this budget item, and there is no modification. So I'm not sure you mean if this is applied on the already awarded projects. If this is regarding the already awarded project, we will be. You can contact the post-award team if you would like to change or to move the budget between categories. If it's related to the new submission. So I have already presented to you the allowed items which QNRF approves. So, yes, if you are accepting a proposal for virtual conferences, what will be appropriate budget items? For example, could it be use a virtual conference platform? Yes, sure, because this is will be a replacement for the event venue. So certainly you can use this as a budget item under the event venue, for example. So thank you all. So this is the last question. Thank you all, and hope we can, inshallah, next time to hold the normal session where we can meet with you and listen to you, to your suggestions, and welcome and supporting you more. Thank you all, and
Thank you, Noha.
Yes.
Thank you, Noha. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Wael, Maria, Sheikh Abdullah, and Walid from QNRF for their assistance and being able to give you this session. We hope that you had something to take away from today's session. And as Noha mentioned, our doors are always open for you, and we encourage you to reach out to us in case you have any further questions or concerns. I wish you all a good day, and thank you again for your time and for joining us. Have a great day.